So when you looked at like the mid-market segment and for the audience, how did Gusto define SMB versus mid-market versus enterprise? What were the different thresholds there?
Yeah, so SMB, we were kind of in like the 1 to 25 employee range. And then mid-market was like 25 to 500, and then enterprise would be 500 above.
Makes total sense. So 25 to 500, that's what you defined mid-market as,
Yeah.
right?
hmm
What were some of the early challenges that you ended up facing when you moved from this SMB market into the mid-market segment?
Yeah. Well, so the biggest one was payroll. If you think about Gusto's product in general, it's a very well designed product. It's a really like the company really puts a lot of effort into a simple, guided, beautiful experience. And what that means for running payroll for 5 employees is that everything is just kind of like a lot of white space. Click next, 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 run payroll. But if you're doing that for, hundreds of employees, that experience becomes really tedious and it becomes really hard to spot errors and it's not delightful at all. And so that was the biggest thing we needed to tackle, and that took quite a while to do a lot of research and really understand how are we going to go about this. Besides that, uh, when we started doing market research, a lot of support from product marketing, we did a huge research campaign around this, and we learned that people were really looking for an all-in-one solution. And I was really, we were scratching our heads in what all-in-one meant, and really had to dig in there. And what they meant by that was just something that really seamlessly worked together. We already had payroll and benefits, and that's part of it. But as they're growing, they're scaling their team. So it's not just, we need to pay these people and we need to offer them benefits, but like, how do we coordinate all of these humans? How do we think about org charts and performance management and hiring and onboarding and offboarding? And so all of these pieces suddenly, like, the scope began to grow, and it was really a question of sequencing and making sure we were still building, to the Gusto quality bar.
That's actually super interesting for me, right? Where you have one group of customers that need all these additional features. And then you have like your Horizon 1 customers, your SMB customers who are just really
Mhm.
happy with payroll. They don't really have a requirement for a lot of these other things.
Yeah.
And how did you guys balance resourcing and roadmaps across these two competing priorities almost, right? Like how did you
Mhm.
end up making those decisions and those trade-offs?
Yeah, we ended up intentionally separating those groups. So the core team was very specifically, keep the lights on. This is the bread and butter of the business, and if it fails, then the company fails. So it's really important. So that ended up going to a different team. My team was like more about growth. We were targeting, improved retention, very much focused on NPS and word of mouth, which is what Gusto's really differentiated itself on.
Got it. Interesting. So how did you um okay, so basically there was two separate roadmaps, right, for each of those different segments. Is that fair to say?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Got it. And how did you end up making the case for resourcing and budgeting and so on in terms of how many PMs you have, how many engineers, how many designers, and
hmm
so on? How were those decisions made at the org level?
At the org level,
Yeah.
yeah. The Horizon framework, we would based on the growth of the company and the success of the different parts of the businesses and like what was most pressing at the time. At that moment, this was pre-pandemic. This was the company was very strong, like high growth. And so we were looking to expand into these new segments, these Horizon 2 and 3 areas. And so I think we were probably more of like a 60-20-20, 60%, 20%, 20%. So that's where we were, how we allocated the initial team. And then from there, it was a matter of prioritization within each of those areas.